What's going on, everyone? I am Jason with Upshifting Adventures, and thanks so much for tuning into this rather unambiguously titled video, The Best Motorcycle Ever Built. And I hope by the end of this video I will have you convinced that this bike is the best motorcycle ever built. And before we get into that though, do a little bit of business. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. I would really appreciate it. Helps me get in the YouTube algorithm, gets me up higher on the search list and stuff like that. Gets my videos out there and gets some seen. And at the end of this, if you like the video, please smash that like button for me. It just means a lot when I see all the likes, and that I know that people are actually enjoying the videos. So to get into it, this bike right here, the KTM Super Duke 1290R. This one happens to be the Evo version, which is essentially just the WP semi-active suspension system, okay? But we'll get more into that later on in the video. But this is my bike. This month marks my 1 year of ownership of this bike. And I meant to do a sort of a long-term review on it a few months back, but as luck would have it, I was in a barber shop one day and I was parked next to a guy in a great big jacked up pickup truck. And when he got in his truck, because it was so high, he couldn't see my bike in the parking spot next to his, backed out, turned the wheel, knocked the bike over. Really cool guy, got out, tried to pick it back up, and unfortunately dropped it on the other side. Oh, well, that happens, right? No structural or serious damage to the bike, but a lot of cosmetic damage. Took it to my local bike shop, Faye Meyer's Motorcycle World here in the Denver area. They are fantastic. I love those guys. I wouldn't go anywhere else. But unfortunately, with KTM supply chain issues, it took 5 months to get all of the parts to come in. They were just trickling in a little bit at a time. I finally got the bike back. So happy to have it. Overjoyed, really. And thought I would go ahead and do my long-term video on this bike. So the first thing I want to do is talk about some of the more common things or questions that I've heard about the bike before we get into the nitty-gritty and the specs and all that other stuff. Probably one of the more frequent questions you hear from people is the bike really all that fast? Short answer to that, yes, it is all that fast. This bike is rip your face off fast when it comes to accelerating from a stop, out of a corner, whatever. And that is due mostly to this 1301cc V-twin LC8 motor that KTM has really perfected at this level. It is such a powerful beast, henceforth the nickname of this bike, the Beast, right? It is a 185 horsepower, 105 foot-pound of torque accelerating machine, and it is wildly quick and fun to ride. The other question I hear a lot is it manageable having all of that power? And the short answer to that question is also yes, very manageable. There are a lot of detractors out there that will say this bike is unruly, it's a hooligan, which it is, and it's supposed to be, right? But that it's untamed and it can't be really street ridden all that well. And those people who say that, I don't believe they've ever ridden a Super Duke. And if they have, I don't know what they're riding that can match the power and the drivability of this motorcycle. And just, for reference, there are 5 different power settings on this bike. I leave mine in track mode with throttle set in track mode, anti-wheelie mode turned off. That is the most you can get out of this motorcycle as far as power goes. And I leave it there all the time, every time I get on the bike. It's great to use it when you want it, but you don't need it if you don't want it. People think you're going to give this bike a little bit of throttle and it's going to jump right out from underneath you. It's not true. It's very streetable. It's very rideable in a city with stoplights and all that. And if you ask me, it's more fun than any other bike because of the fact that in first gear, I can take off from a stoplight, get to about 20-25 miles an hour, blip that throttle real quick, front end comes right off the ground, and then you just put it back down. It's so fun. It's so fun. This bike, there's a reason I call this video the best bike ever built, okay? So, how did I arrive at the title of this video, the best motorcycle ever made? Well, it's quite simple, really. After a series of scientific experiments conducted by me riding this bike, I was able to come to the very obvious conclusion that this is the best motorcycle ever made. Now, if you ask me, this bike comes from the factory with no necessary modifications needed to make it the world's best super naked motorcycle. None at all. But of course, I'm a motorcycle rider. Every motorcycle rider is going to improve their bike as much as they can, add some things, stuff like that. I have not done a whole lot to this bike as far as performance upgrades go. Mostly kind of cosmetic-y stuff. The only performance upgrades I've really done, of course, I have the tech pack, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But if you want to really explore everything this bike has to offer, you have to pay for that tech pack, and it's not cheap, but in my opinion, fully worth it. The performance upgrades I've done to the bike is I added the SC Project exhaust, and I've got a video on my channel if you want to check that out, and my opinions on the exhaust particularly and specifically. Great exhaust, and it sounds awesome. It's got a perfect note, and I love this exhaust a lot. I have added a Mupo progressive steering damper to the front. The KTM factory damper that comes with it comes with a WP damper, and it is a piece of crap. I hate to say it, sorry KTM, but for a $25,000 motorcycle, you should probably put a better steering damper on the bike. Now, there are lots of videos out there on YouTube where guys will show you how to take the damper off, pull it apart, put some thicker oil in it, make it a little bit better, and they say it works really well. I wanted to have a progressive one. I can dial it into my riding style. I just found it helped a lot more. And that's it for the performance upgrades that I've done to the bike. Some of the other things I've done, I guess you could kind of call them performance upgrades. I did put this billet aluminum rear set on the bike that I got from Rottweiler Performance. It's made by Gilles, G-I-L-L-E-S. I don't know if I pronounced it right or not. If I didn't, I'm sorry guys, but it is fully adjustable, all billet aluminum. It's a bitchin' rear set. I really like it because you can really dial it into specific foot size, you know, how high you want your shift lever to be for your toe, all that other stuff. I put on some the KTM factory orange reservoir covers on my clutch reservoir and my brake master cylinder. I have put on these KTM bar end mirrors, which are really great. I love them a lot. I think they have much better vision than the factory units, and they look a hell of a lot better for sure. And then the ASV fully adjustable brake and clutch levers, which you gotta have. I mean, you just gotta have those. The factory ones come with some adjustments, but it's just not all that much. And I don't like to run the handlebar cages, so these levers will fold almost 90 degrees out, so they're really hard to break. Well, unfortunately, it is Colorado in springtime, so you don't always get the best of weather. It's nice out right now, it's comfortable, but it is very windy, and I hope it comes out okay on the video. And if it doesn't, if there's any wind noise, I do apologize for that. But so a little bit more about the bike. It is a very tall bike for a sport bike. It's actually, I'm 6'4", like I said, very super comfortable on this bike. Some of the advantages of this bike over a super sport bike are the handlebar position and the seating position. You're in a much more upright seated position, and I really love that because this bike will hang with any super bike out there. The difference being is I can ride this bike from sun up to sundown, and most of your sport bike guys, after a couple hours, your wrists are sore, your elbows are sore, your back is hurting, your knees are tucked up into your chest, your legs are sore. This bike is very comfortable. I've put 400 miles a day on this bike for a couple days at a time, and was perfectly fine. I love it. A lot of people say that the seat's not all that great. I haven't had a problem with it. I'm 240, 250 pounds. I've not had a problem with this seat. I don't see any reason to replace it. So yeah, you know, it is a very comfortable bike. So let's take it out for a spin, talk a little bit more, and let you see what this bike is capable of, and see maybe if you're convinced that this is the best motorcycle that's ever been made. This bike is so much fun and has almost zero, what would you say, drawbacks to ownership or to riding.
I would guess if you had to come up with one drawback to ownership, I'd say maybe the price, not only to purchase but to maintain. It's a little expensive, but the good things in life always are, right? So I just love every single thing about this motorcycle, from the amount of power that it has to the comfortable riding and seating position to how responsive it is to everything that I ask of it. There are a lot of people out there that say the bike is just too much bike. It's not comfortable to ride. The engine is untamely. I disagree with all of that. Maybe a lot of those people have either just test ridden the bike, or maybe they're just repeating what they've heard. I don't know. But I can tell you, as a Super Duke owner, and talking with other Super Duke owners that I have, we all absolutely love this motorcycle. I will probably never go without a Super Duke for the foreseeable future. When it's time to move on from this one, I will almost certainly be buying another one. Now, I have many motorcycles that I ride. I'm fortunate enough to own several, but none of them give me the thrill that this does. So to say it's the best motorcycle ever made, now I know that you could say, well, you can't go off-road with it, you can't take it on 5-day excursions with panniers and luggage racks and all that. Well, that's true. Now you take those bikes and you can't do on those bikes what you can do on this bike. I'm just saying, for overall general likability, smiles per hour, thrill of riding, this bike is it. It cannot be topped. I've ridden many motorcycles. I've owned many motorcycles, and none of them gave me the absolute thrill of riding like this bike does. One thing that makes this bike so fun to ride is the LC8 motor. This motor makes so much power, and mind you, it's not as much as some of the other bikes. I want to say, you know, the RSV4 is probably on top of the market right now with about about 215 or 20 horsepower that it's coming with. And you've got the Ducatis with their V4. You've got some other bikes that make more power, but I don't think they transfer that power to the chassis as well. I don't think they're as fun to ride. This motorcycle, when I'm riding around in town, if I want to pass somebody, I don't even generally worry what gear I'm in. I just give it some gas and we're gone, right? And the pass is completed. So there's very little worry as to what gear you're in, especially when you have to make a quick decision, right? Sometimes you just got to do something, and when you hit the gas on this, it goes. I had a Ducati 1098 several years ago, and I remembered, you know, I also had a ZX10 at the same time, and I can remember riding that Ducati in the twisty roads here in in the mountains west of me. And when I would come up to a turn, this was obviously before auto shift, or sorry, quick shifters. So when I would come up to a turn, I would downshift, blipping the throttle, you know, pull in the clutch, blip the throttle to try to match the revs of the motor. And as I would let the clutch out, that back tire would lock up on me a lot and I would slide. And it was really unnerving for me, because going, you know, from the very smooth inline 4 of the Kawasaki to that Ducati and the Torquey V twin, it was very difficult to really ride that thing hard in the corners because I was always sliding that back tire around. On this bike, when I come into a corner, I get on the brakes hard and I start downshifting with the auto shifter. And while I can feel the engine certainly braking and slowing the bike down, the back tire never gets squirrely because it does have anti-lock brakes and all that. But also, just because the motor, the power band seems to be consistent from start to finish. From the bottom of the RPM range to the top. It's just so powerful. Yeah, there's never a day when I don't want to get on this bike and ride. So my reserve light is on. Time to swing in and get some fuel and maybe a little bit of lunch, I think. Thank you all so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I was able to convince you that this is the best motorcycle that's ever been built. If you have any questions or comments, or you want to argue the point, please leave your comments in the comments section. If you did like the video, please smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you see all the new stuff I got coming out. As I've said before, I really need the viewers. I got 5 kids to feed, right? I'm kidding. I just do this because I love doing it. I don't make any money doing this at all. But I guess you could say I get paid with appreciation, right? If I know people are liking the stuff, that's worth it right there. So yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys out on the road. Take care now.